didn't. You got the polo shirt.
Oh, so because you decided to dress like one of us plebs today.
Yeah, I'm dressing down. How about that? So you go ahead, take over.
What's up, everybody?
This is the type of news. I'm Dutch Pyramid.
Bruce Robinson.
Bang, boom.
I'm got the fancy shirt on. I'm got to announce myself today.
So,
well, as we said last time, we did go to the PLP Youth Night. Well, I went and then he came at like 2 hours later just to get the free drinks and food. But I'm glad to say, I mean, I was very pleased with it. And, you know, I had a long conversation with Minister Jamal. And the thing is, what was even more shocking was all of my questions got answered. Like, now we will do a video, a full video later on. Well, maybe if we have the time, we'll do a full video later on. That's a big maybe because we are very busy. Just explaining everything that happened. But myself and Maya from Freedom of Information went, and yeah, they answered all of our questions. But I did still tell them, you know, don't think I just wanted to go easy on, because I told them, like, listen, I'm happy to hear all this, but why isn't this being reported? Don't make the same mistakes that you accuse the previous government of doing. So while I am happy that stuff is getting done, I'm still upset because that transparency still isn't there yet. But I will give credit where credit is due. The event was very well done. It wasn't like the minister was talking down to people. I was kind of upset that Minister Keynes was there, but apparently he was very busy at another event. So, you know, because I really want to talk to him about the cryptocurrency, because I still don't understand it fully. But yeah, not bad. It wasn't bad. I think that frankly, in my opinion, I think they should do those, if not every quarter, at least every other month.
yeah. And well, for me, it's just like during the election, they had one of those nights and they answered every question, and then when we got to the execution, it wasn't quite there. So for me, it's a good effort.
It's a good effort. I thought it was very well done.
But I'm sold on action.
Well, true, but at least at least we get the chance was given to attempt for some transparency. So we will give credit where credit is due. Good on you, government.
I'll give
do
credit
more of those
for it to be an attempt to actually get youth engaged.
And
it's not your fault if the youth don't show up, but at least you are given the option and an opening for them to get involved.
You know, Colonel Blum still didn't want to speak to me, and neither did my good buddy, Mr. Rebane. But those two never liked me, so yeah, I can deal with that. I can deal with that. The Premier was very kind to me. Mr. Simmons was very kind to me. Ms. Ferber was very kind to me. Mr. Dickinson, and everyone there was cool. Like, everyone there was very, it was kind of awkward because a lot of the people were asking me OBA questions, and I'm like, I don't know, I don't care. Like, I abandoned ship before it sunk, fam. Like, I'm sitting there, I ain't even on my lifeboat anymore. I'm got my own boat now.
Just shucking and jiving.
Just shucking, not me.
Yeah.
Now that I says, I ain't shucking and jiving for nobody but me.
Well, listen.
But let's get into this topic. Let's get into this topic of the day.
Sick.
We're going to talk to y'all about some livable wages.
Yeah, I think this topic is very interesting as far as Bermuda is concerned.
Did you say Bermudia?
No, I said Bermuda.
Okay.
But Bermuda is a good new island. But
We're rename St. David's?
when you're talking about livable wage, is what we're going to talk about today. It's one of those things where it sounds nice, and I totally would love it, but I do see the potential for damage.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Bermudians, we really believe that, there is tons and tons of money in this country. And tactically it is, but it circulates in a loop. Top folks circulate all that money and barely any trickle down. So I can see why a livable wage would be on the table, because obviously it would force
I think
wealth to be circulated a bit lower than it usually is in the pool.
I think a livable wage is necessary, especially with us being the most expensive country in the world 4 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just how it's implemented that's what concerns us. Because everybody knows anytime you tell a company you have to pay workers more, you have to pay out more money, what's the first thing they do?
Downsize.
They downsize. And better to make a little bit of money than make none at all. Which sounds bad, but I mean, and this is why I applaud the government for trying to introduce something like this because, like as you said, on paper it sounds great. It's just this really needs to get honed in.
Well, I think it's mostly for retail and hospitality, isn't it? And I think in those cases,
I think they did
retail,
specifically say retail and hospitality.
No, but I mean it would be for everybody. But most people, I guess you would say, a lot of people are already above the stated wage as far as 1863 goes. Like, I mean, if you look at any of the big marketplace chains and all that, they're already above that
I
wage.
think marketplace is fine, but like I know some girls that work in retail some of them make under $10 an hour.
But this is what I'm saying.
And how,
but
like,
if you have to look at the fact that retail as an industry, hospitality as an industry is not as lucrative as it once was, right? And most of those businesses, they make a lot of money, but I think they make a lot of money by keeping payroll low. And I'm not supporting paying people a wage they can barely live off of. I'm not. And I do think that livable wage is necessary. I just think that I can see how the recoil would be if a retail store who might not be as lucrative as it would like, or a hotel that is running in a deficit might say, well, if I have to pay a waiter $18.63, instead of having 10 waiters, I'll just have 5.
Well, I guess the question would that needs to be asked: how many of their workers make above 1863, and how many make below 1863?
Well, for me, it's really from what I'm gathering, it's really like housekeepers, waiters, retail workers. You know, and because I feel like front desk folks, it might be, if anything, I know some of them might start at 16.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a $2 bump up, not really a big thing. But for retail and for waiters and housekeepers in hospitality, it would be like almost triple. And I don't know how gratuitous would work.
I don't know gratuities. I think they might actually get rid of gratuities.
They would probably have to. And I think that even then, that kind of justifies, if you're keeping all of the profit, then you can pay a higher hourly wage.
I would make the argument that I think that most I would bet money that most companies can actually afford to pay all of their workers at minimum 1863. I do think that is possible. I mean, I think it would be wiser to gradually get to 1863.
Well, a lot of people feel that 1863 is low, and
It is
I
low.
agree.
Because they live like in order to live comfortably in Bermuda, like the average person needs to make between $50,000 to $60,000 a year, on average, just to be comfortable. So like you're not stressed for bills, you're not stressed for this. I mean, like you're living by your means, you're not going out doing anything crazy, but you're able to survive comfortably.
And that's about like $25 an hour.
Exactly. Now you can survive off of $30,000 a year, $20,000 a year. You can survive, but surviving isn't living comfortably.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you have kids, double that.
But I would wonder if the minimum wage would mitigate a lot of these issues as far as taxes go, because if you're paid more, 1863.
You're taxed more.
Not necessarily tax more, but I mean like you'll be able to, government's 5% or whatever percent it is of payroll tax would be increased because
So the government will make more money. I think it's a smart way for the government to make more money. I have no problem with that. But like another big question is this going to be across the board? Is this only going to be for Bermudians? Is it going to be for expats? Because I know some companies treat their immigrant workers very questionably, to the point that some of them don't even get payroll tax taken out, which is very, very questionable at best. Mm-hmm. And I think the government needs to come behind those companies and be like, hey, listen, because we have no problem with immigrants. None whatsoever. Every country has and needs immigrants. Mm-hmm. This ain't North Korea.
No, it ain't. We were supposed to follow up a joke, but we did.
I wasn't trying to crack it.
Okay.
That was just one line. You know, we ain't North Korea.
Okay.
Bert ain't gotten his terrible haircut in like flat press his hair and then done a little comb over and then like shaved his sides and then gotten fat. Yeah. Let me stop saying that before Kim Jong sends. Okay, can the missiles get this far? They can't get this far.
No, can't get this far.
America's right. We good. But Yeah, so it's like we do need immigrants, but at the same time, we need our immigrants to be treated in the workplace as well as us. Because I'm sorry, and I'm sure many people disagree with me, but if you're doing the job, then you should get paid for the job you're doing. Now, if we were to introduce A1863, I would hope that immigrant workers would get that as well. However, my fear is that companies are going to cut people.
Well, typically, migrant workers always make slightly less, and that's kind of how it goes in this country.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's every country.
Yeah, every country. But I do think my biggest fear is that when you raise the 1863, that companies might choose to go with migrant workers over Bermudians. So it's like Bermudians would end up being
They
sprinkled.
already do.
Well, yeah, but it's even more so of like if they already do at a wage where Bermudians are barely surviving, and then you give them a wage where it is survivable by the company. It's like I want to know the specifics of how the government is going to implement this, where businesses can't just make a choice of what is more profitable for them, because I mean at the end of the day it's hard for you to dictate to businesses who they choose to hire.
And also, like, would there be like some form of sanctions against businesses that just get rid of people because of the new tax? Like there's a lot of questions. Like we like the idea of there being a livable wage. I like that. Frankly, we need that. But at the same time, how is this going to be implemented? Like, are there sanctions going to be taken against companies? Because I would hope that the government has a plan of, okay, well, if the company says, okay, well, we'll get rid of this, and the government have a rebuttal then saying, okay, well, then we'll do this against you. So now, I'm not for government threatening people, but at the same time, the government's mandate is to keep the safety and the well-being of the people, and that would dictate sticking it to these companies being like, no, you have to do this, and you have to make sure that you don't get rid of people, because if you get rid of people, then XYZ.
I think that certain jobs should be protected too.
Yes.
And I think that waiting could be a protected job. Like I feel like, I hate to say it, but being trained as a waiter is not a specialist thing. Like I don't see why we would need migrant workers as waiters. Now if you're talking about chefs and specialist things, and I can see how maybe you could have a migrant worker there for that, because having that experience overseas might be tailor-made to what type of cuisine you're trying to serve.
No, that makes sense.
But I don't think that waiting and front desk and things like that can't be protected jobs for Bermudians. And I mean, if a company wants to kind of shuffle around its course, it could shuffle around somewhere else, but it doesn't need it. We shouldn't have to vie or compete for non-specialized jobs in our own country. I feel like if it's not a specialized job, then it should be left there for the younger generation to break into the work world and maybe, just maybe, become a captain or become a floor manager in a restaurant in their own country. And I know people say, well, Bermudians not as interested in hospitality as they once were. I'm sorry, but have you gone to one of those hospitality fairs where people are trying to get jobs? People want to work. They don't care where they work at this point. And at this hospitality fairs, it's full.
I think the main thing that they're trying to say is that trained Bermudians don't want to work in hospitality because they don't train for that field. If we implemented, workplace training in high school, like we're supposed to, then we would probably see, like Minister Wilson was talking the other day about how we don't have enough Bermudian nurses. I absolutely agree. My grandfather was in the hospital the other day, and I could maybe count on my hand the amount of Bermudians I saw. But I don't have a problem with the immigrants in the hospital, but I'd like to see more Bermudians. And nurses get paid a decent amount of money.
Yep. I mean, it's not like us going against migrant workers, but
No.
It's just we feel like Bermuda should be putting Bermudians first. It should be
Every country should be putting their own first.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to go to.
Now, if an immigrant as we said before, if an immigrant ceases to be an immigrant and gets Bermudian status, unlike some other people that we like to complain about, then give them the same stuff as Bermudians. They're Bermudians on paper. Remember, the only thing that makes you Bermudian is that slip of paper. Whether you are born here or not,
legally,
you got that piece of paper, you are Bermudian. Legally.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing.
Because I mean, culturally, obviously, It's a lot more intricacies. But
Yeah.
legally, you are Bermudian with that paper.
By the time you're eligible enough to get that paper, you're gonna be culturally legal. Bermudian.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, it shouldn't be like I said, like a nurses are specialized jobs, and we would have to put a bit more work and training our population to take those jobs, right? Because obviously there's a not jobs you just pick up on the fly. But I don't see why it should be places like full of jobs that are very standardized entry level jobs that are being given to migrant workers that I know a Bermudian can do.
Mm-hmm.
I know a Bermudian can answer.
As we said before, I mean, I don't know if the union does this. I mean, on to Laverne before I say something differently. But as we said, the union should have a list of eligible Bermudians, and then they should go to companies and be like, hey, here's A through Z. These are 27 people, Bermudians, that can do this job. Pick one.
No, we have a minister of workforce development, don't we?
Does he do that?
I think you should.
Who's the minister of workforce development?
Which one is it? We're having a brain fart. But
yeah, it's been a long weekend.
We do, and I think that should be part of the workforce development. I mean, if I see a population that's aging, and me as the government, I wouldn't be like, well, how can I make Bermudians have more children? How can I make Bermudians? Because I feel like we don't.
I think that might be the livable wage.
And that's what I mean.
Milton Brown? The minister?
No, immigration. Him first. There's him first. Yeah.
How many ministers do we have? We have 13 ministers. Jesus Christ.
That's right. But I think
That's why God gave us Google.
I understand pathways. I think pathways is part of it, but I also think that we should have initiatives to try and get Bermudians to have more children. And I think this livable wage is the first step in the right direction. But I do also think that you need to protect entry level jobs so that young people can work here and pursue their passions. Because a lot of young people would be fine waiting at a table if they can still practice the photography and all that on the side. Just give them entry level jobs so they can sustain themselves on. Right now, it's like you got older people doing entry level jobs and young people.
Wait, what ministry did you say it was? What ministry did you say it was?
Workforce development?
I don't see a ministry for workforce development.
Where is it? Is
Well, it works. That would be works in engineering. Works.
Let me see.
That's Colonel Birch. It's definitely not Colonel Birch. Like I said, I think it was Walton Brown, Home Affairs.
Yeah, they must have.
Maybe they just spliced them.
Yeah, they probably did. You can't keep up.
No,
They change every 4 years.
We really can't. It's very and Zane quit, so they be shuffling around anyway because the half white guy you had in PLB.
Yeah, he was 1.5.
Or maybe just one because I guess Graham Moore will count as half.
I think he counts as a quarter.
Okay, whatever. This is my fear. And another fear of mine in regards to this is if you have to pay the workers that make less more, don't make the workers that get paid more less.
Well, I feel like that's the ripple effect, isn't it? Like
It would be because people that make 20 would get bumped down to 1863.
So if a waiter makes $7
Mm-hmm.
and gratuitous, and a captain makes, let's say, $10 to $12 plus a higher point in grats, because the hourly wage is not much different, but the point in grats that a captain gets is much higher than the point a waiter gets. So if I pay that waiter $18.63, I have to compensate the captain. He still has to have that same pay gap. So it's like, how do you then, as a business, who has to now readjust your pay scale, really kind of get put in a bind, don't you? Because now you got to say, well, instead of this captain making $10 on a point of grats,
But all the companies will get put in the bind. So
yeah, he has to make straight pay, which means his straight pay has to be. Because, I mean, a 0.5 increase of a grat is high. Like a captain makes significantly more than a waiter. Not a lot more, but significantly more. Like I could look at a pay stub and be like, oh, that's a captain's pay.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So you got to translate that into straight pay now.
But the thing is, what's to force those companies into doing that? That's what I need to find out from the government.
Well, it's law. Once the...
No, not need to do that. I'm saying into keeping the pay. Like, keeping... Not even just the captains. I'm talking about in general. Like, regular workers, like let's say, because I know seniority takes point when it comes to working places. Someone that's been working there for 3 months is going to get the same as somebody that's working there for 30 years.
It depends.
Well, when I started working in Cablevision, my coworker who had been there for like 10, 12 years, she was making a good bit more than me, even though we were doing the same position. But I just got there. Now my pay went up as I started, because I was there for 5 years. So my pay was it?
Well, some monopolies, like
getting old.
Some big companies like that. Like I know Marketplace increases your pay a percentile every year, but it's not every, because I don't know if retail does that.
Retail's very iffy because some places do and some places don't. Retail is a big,
because it's a private company's choice. It's just like how some companies mitigated the healthcare rise. Like so some companies are not paying the full $21 increase.
Well, but at the same time, as we said like a long time ago, majority of government work is what, 60% of the workforce?
Yeah.
I think maybe this might be an effort to, not he or we said. I certainly don't think the government he's what we said. If they did, I'd feel so much better when I go to sleep at night. But I would hope that what was I saying? Right. I would hope that this will be almost like an incentive or like an action to get more people working in the private sector, because I think the government understands that the private sector should be bigger than the public sector.
Yes.
And I think that they should be taking methods to do that, because you've got Bert trying to bring in cryptocurrency and everything that'll give jobs. You've got Keynes and Colonel Blump saying that they'll both give 100 jobs.
Well, it's smart, because if he does get the fintech businesses off the ground and they come here, they're backed by conglomerates overseas, they can afford to pay the 1863 to a person. Or if that's just stated, it's not the guaranteed number, but let's just say 1863. It would be good for Bermudians to break into the industry with a livable wage.
Yeah, that would be great. So I would hope that everything's incorporated. I mean, there's nothing.
Not for government, because government workers start.
That's what I'm saying. But it's for the private sector. I think the government needs to rebuild the private sector.
Yeah.
And I think I wholeheartedly believe that this is a step in the right direction. But that's all I'm got.
My biggest gripe is that I am afraid that when that ripple effect starts, where you started at 1863 and then somebody who was making $20 is now seeing, let's say, a waiter making 1863, and I'm front desk and I always made 18, but now this waiter is making 1863 too. I need to make 22. And it's just
I honestly, in that case, I would take the harsh approach with that, and I would be like, listen, this is the minimum wage. We will still bump your pay up eventually over the course of the year, but just because they get a pay increase to live doesn't mean your pay has to go up. It sounds harsh when they say it, but like if I was a business owner, that would be the only course of action I could take, because
I agree.
Because they get a pay raise doesn't mean you get a pay raise.
But you know how people are.
Oh, I don't care how people are.
Yeah, but I mean, you would have to as a business owner, because if you're gonna say that this unqualified and unskilled job, because let's be realistic, this unqualified, unskilled job versus me who has a qualified job, I did not work for that qualification to be paid on par.
But at the same time, the argument needs to be made that this is a government mandate and this isn't what the company is saying. Now, if the company truly values that employee, then they should, steps should be taken to make sure that employee gets more. I completely agree with bumping up and paying for seniority and making sure that people that do the jobs and have been trained well get paid well. But at the same time, if the government says you gotta pay X amount of dollars at minimum, then you have to pay X amount of dollars. And that person might be upset for a couple of minutes, but something,
I just feel like
it's gonna happen.
Yeah,
it's gonna happen. It's gonna be an eventuality.
I can't say even to me as a paralegal.
Well, no, even in other, because I've worked at a lot of places. In some jobs that I've had where I got a big pay raise, but not like a huge pay raise, but like let's say like my hourly pay would go up by like $6 an hour, which was huge for me because I was like 21. Some of the coworkers were like, "You're making how much?" I've been here for X, like that. I should get paid more.
That's why I never discuss my wage.
No
one ever knows what the hell my wage is.
I've heard the argument of why you should discuss how much you get paid versus how much why you shouldn't, but that's a toss-up. Either way, all I'm gonna say is I'm curious to see is how this is gonna be implemented. I wholeheartedly support this. I wholeheartedly hope that this is gonna be well done. Points to you, government, for at least trying to rebuild the private sector. But
with a livable wage, you have to also look at cost of living. Right?
Yes.
And we have a cost of living commission.
And that's my fear, that if the wages go up, then the price is going to go up. Because for the last 10 years, the numbers on everything but our paychecks have been going up. So
yeah, and not to be kind of a nitpicker or a pot shotter, but the prices have gone up significantly since the PLP has come in.
Well,
and I mean, not necessarily attributed to them.
I think the snowball was already rolling down the mountain at that point.
I will say that after that year, the healthcare was going down.
True.
So it is definitely some things that are being done that have altered the course of that, because social insurance is going up, healthcare is going up, landline, all that stuff is going up. Everything's going up. So it's like
everything's going up.
You have a cost of living commission that I don't know if I think they're doing it pro bono or whatever. That
I doubt it.
But they're working to deal with cost of living. But again, the cost of living issue is what justifies these wages. So if you give them 1863, somebody is going to say, well, if they're making 1863 because of the cost of living, I need to make 25 because I am somebody who is skilled. I am a specialized worker. I should not be making so close to what a waiter makes. And if people think that that's not how people think,
that's exactly how people think.
That's exactly how people think. Yeah, it's like if I'm walking around as a paralegal or whatever, legal aid, and my starting wage is maybe, I don't know what they start at, but let's say 25. And I'm like, okay, well, a waiter down here is making $10 or whatever. And then I hear, okay, well, that waiter's making 1863, and I'm a paralegal and I'm making like 25. I'll be like, no, I need to make 30.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I'm trying to say.
That's exactly what's gonna happen.
And I like you said, I want to see like what is the follow up behind that. Like, is it gonna be kind of seminars with the businesses? Our employees gonna be made abreast of the fact that this is something that is being implemented and we're working it out.
There's no way that they'd be able to do that without incorporating that. There's no way.
Well, that's
a complete jackasses, which is possible, but I hope not.
With Bermuda being so expensive, I do understand how obviously, like you said, you shouldn't be mad at somebody making a wage that allows them to live. But at the same time, if people are scraping by no matter what you make in this country, really, people
don't live above your means.
Yeah.
Bermudians have a bad habit of living above their means.
But it's people that are making 25 that are, struggling, because it's like to have a kid here. If you have 3 kids and you're making 25,
and if you're in a single parent household, then
you're making $25 or $30 an hour.
That's not enough money to raise kids.
Yeah, you're struggling. So I feel like, okay, you do 1863. Well, these people are gonna be like, well, damn, we're having kids, we're contributing to the economy. What help do we get? You know what I mean? So that's
that's pretty much all I've got to say on the topic. It's like we could go on for hours and hours about the nature of people and how if someone makes more, then everybody's gonna automatically demand more. But that is something that the government's gonna have to do. That's not our job.
Yeah, and
not yet.
But I'm just looking for like the cost of living commission to create viable options as well to coincide with the increase in wage, because you can't, even though you increase in wage, stuff needs to still come down.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So that's what I'm looking forward to.
I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
It's been a type of news.
Check out later.
I'm Dutch Pyramid. That's Bruce Robinson. Bing bang boom. Make my money go longer. Make me spend less. That's all I want in Bermuda. Somerset. Team Somerset.